All right, Heather. A, B, C, D, or E?
C.
C. So the person that played, I want to say it's Charon. It might be Charon. I don't know. Or Charion. I don't remember the name of the character. It's the Greek person that ferried people across the road or the river Styx.
Oh, yes.
That person. Anyway, the person that played him in a movie, or a character named that, was Lance Riddick. And Lance Riddick passed away today at the age of 60.
That is really sad. I really liked him. A good character actor.
I mean, and it's like a super hit to me because of The Wire and Fringe and John Wick. It's like all of it all at once. And like him, I'm just like, it's one of the most depressing things I've ever heard in my life.
I know. It's really sad.
Yeah, and he was weirdly supposed to also, like, I know we talked about Greek stuff. He was going to play Zeus in the new Percy Jackson TV series that they were doing for Disney Plus.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but not anymore. I mean, well,
was he going to be?
I don't know. They might have filmed it.
Was he going to be in that John Wick series they were doing?
The ballerina? I don't know.
Mm.
Okay, wait. There was the series that's based on the hotel,
mm-hmm.
the International. But then there's the spinoff movie, The Ballerina.
Right.
With Ana de Armas.
Right.
I don't know.
If he's in either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, I do not know the answer to your question. But
that's okay. But he will be missed because he was great.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It severely caught me off guard. I mean, I didn't also realize that he was like 60. Like,
you thought he was younger than that?
I don't know what age I thought he was. I just was not thinking that.
Yeah. It's also because I feel like in anything I've seen him in, like he just hasn't aged at all. Like in everything I've seen him in, I'm just like, he looks the exact same age.
He does damn near look exactly like he did in the Wire.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was 20 something years ago, and he looks almost the exact same.
Yeah. And he was in American Horror Story, right? He played who's that guy he played? The voodoo, oh goodness.
He didn't play.
What is his name?
Did he play, was it Samedi?
I thought he did. Yeah, I think he played Samedi.
I do not remember. I mean, that was also so long ago. And I stopped caring about that show so long ago.
To be fair, I do think it was in the Coven season, which is a better season.
But it's also, I think, the last time I may have actually really watched that show. And then on top of that,
that's fair.
Still not cared. Oh my gosh. I cannot find anything ever. Like, the problem was he was actually in multiple seasons of it. Oh, he played Papa Legba.
Oh, okay.
Which...
yeah, he was great in that too.
Well, ish. That's a weird take on Papa Legba.
Oh, is it?
Well, because they play him like he's Baron Samedi. But... I don't know. See, and that's one of the problems with it too, is they're just like, oh, voodoo shit. Pick a voodoo name.
Right, and they just don't follow through on the accuracy or anything.
Yeah, and God forbid Ryan Murphy, care. I don't know. Ryan Murphy to me is one of those just insanely lazy showrunners where he just doesn't even try. Mm-hmm. Like, he's just like, I don't know, some shit. And they're like, hey, should we do this accurately or actually like try to portray like any sort of actual humanity in any of these scenes? And he goes, nah, just do
not really
shit.
Right.
And I think the last time I even tried to watch American Horror Story, I think it was the double feature season.
Yeah, and last season.
Maybe, I don't know. I made it through like, I guess the first part of the first half of the season when it was one story. But then as soon as I found that like that story was going to end in like 2 episodes, and I was like, that means I've kind of only halfway thought any of this through.
Right.
And then, you know, just switched to something completely different. I was like, oh, so it's going to be just 2 seasons of half-baked bullshit, or, you know, a season of 2 stories of half-baked bullshit. I'm like, nah, I'm done. I don't need to watch this shit no more.
Yeah, I mean, that was a really, I don't know. I feel like that was an odd decision to make because, yeah, it feels like technically like one of the stories did have a full story, but the second part of it felt very like random because it was less episodes. It wasn't like they really split it equally. And yeah, it kind of just felt very like, you know what? I have 2 stories that are almost complete. So let's just do both of them and make a really fast conclusion to them.
That's kind of the way he does that shit though too. Like I kind of hate how it's like every season has its main theme, but they'll throw in other themes too with it. And it's just all half baked. Like as much as I thought Asylum was a pretty solid season, that alien bullshit right in the middle of it too was so fucking dumb. They're just like, oh, hey,
yeah,
aliens too.
That's true. I forgot they did that. Yeah, Asylum was all right. I mean, I still think Murder House and Coven are the best seasons, but Asylum was all right.
And then like one of the problems I randomly had then in Coven was that like it was like the 2 sides were fighting each other, but then they had to unite against a common evil. But then they had to do that witch trial thing at the end. But then there's also the scene where like what's her name gets like raped by a minotaur.
Yeah.
And you're like, that's apparently a thing. Okay.
Right.
But also then it's like they're trying to tie that into voodoo. And I'm like, I don't remember too many, you know, Greek mythological creatures also being a part of voodoo culture. So. Yeah,
you're right. I mean, like, there's some holes in most seasons, I would say. Yeah.
It just starts to feel that way. Like Hotel ended up feeling so lazy to me. Because you have the whole ghost thing. It was the same rules as Murder House. But then you had the vampire thing right in the middle of it too. And then you had the random, like, serial killer baby right in the middle of all of it too.
I mean, I guess that one, like, you're right. But I think it felt less like super random because it felt like, oh, well, this is a hotel full of all sorts of different types of people with different stories. But looking back on it again, like, yeah, definitely it was a lot of like mix match things put together. And then like the Roanoke season was just kind of like nothing. And then the
I hated that so much.
Was a missed opportunity.
The fake story that was also the real story thing from fucking Roanoke was stupid as hell.
Oh yeah.
And also it's playing on like, I'm so also tired of shows playing on things and also in a lazy manner. They're like, Roanoke, no one knows what it means. I'm like, oh, is this 1972 still?
Right.
Like they know what Roanoke means now. They know, or the whole Croatoa or whatever the hell that bullshit was. They know what that is. It's Croatoa. They know what Croatoa was carved into a tree on Roanoke Island.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they know. You're not, like, catching anybody off guard anymore with that shit. And
yeah.
So, like I said, it's like, and then, like, the cult shit, like you said, that was just so fucking lazy. Like,
oh, yeah.
I mean, I get what they're trying to do, but that was some of the most lazy, you know, oh, let's attack the right wing bullshit ever. They weren't even trying. And then the way they did the cult leader thing, where he was just a fucking guy that just magically was able to get people to do shit.
Yeah, and that's the thing about it. Like, they did the quick, I think there was like one episode where they went through some other cult leaders and things like that. And like Evan Peters plays all of them. And that's all well and good. But man, when I heard that they were doing the cult season, I was like, this is going to be interesting, because I think that could have been a fascinating storyline. It was such a missed opportunity to like make a really interesting cult story. They completely missed the opportunity with that to just kind of do, a more modern like take on this is our America now, you know.
Just lazy ass bullshit. Anyway, back to Lance Reddick.
Yes.
I mean, my first introduction to him that I distinctly remember was The Wire, and how fantastic he was in The Wire. And then, like, not too long after that, all of a sudden he's like on Fringe. And I was like, oh man, this guy's amazing. Like, doing it again.
Fringe was my first experience with him. Yeah, he was great in that.
And like, he is such a distinctive, like, he had such a distinctive aesthetic and voice to him. So, like,
yeah,
it was one of those things, like, you hear his voice and you automatically know it's him.
Right.
You know, and then I even loved it when he would do like some comedy stuff here and there, because you would get his voice and his very serious demeanor saying some of the most ridiculous shit ever. And I fucking would love it every time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I really liked him in the John Wick movies. Like, yeah. I still, every movie, I feel like we're going to get to see him do some more crazy shit. I liked the fact that you got to see him do some stuff in the third movie. Mm-hmm.
And I kind of feel like in this fourth one, he's going to do some more stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
But I also liked how he was John Wick's dog sitter.
Yeah.
Because he's such a swell guy.
Yeah. Did they release how he died yet or no?
As far as I know, all they know so far, or at least all they're saying so far, is that he died in his sleep.
Okay.
Like, he went to sleep and just never woke up type of shit.
Okay.
So, yeah, I've got no idea.
Yeah, he was really good. So he'll be missed.
Yes, he will. Anyway, are you ready to get on to this fucking episode? It's one of those things. Yes. The intro is kind of a downer, and then we're going into more of a downer. Oh my God, This is going to be a chore of a fucking episode. Buckle up, Cinefans. You can tell I'm just loving what we're about to talk about.
Exactly. Yes, I'm ready for it.
A classic Sterling bitch fest. Here's our theme song.
Somebody will listen to me. Nobody knows anything but you. All right. Are you ready? Yes. Come on.
Cinema Slayers.
Hey, Cinefans, and welcome back to another episode of the Cinema Slayers podcast. I am Sterling, and as always, I'm joined by Heather, and just Heather. No Jason tonight. as Jason was not able to watch it. So, according to him, though, he will be back next week. He said no matter what. And he said if he's not back next week, if you are a listener to that episode, you just have to IM him on like Facebook or Twitter or text him if you know him personally or Instagram or any of the social medias that way. And he will pay you $5.
Yes.
And you can redeem it every time you listen to that episode. So if you go back and listen to it again, you can, and he's not on it again, he will pay you $5.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
And that is 100% legally binding.
Although I am a little bummed that we're not going to get his Scream, what is it, puns he's going to do that he would have done.
Maybe he would say something like he was, mentally screaming at how bad this fucking movie was.
There you go.
And he was screaming at the movie Scream about how bad this movie was.
Maybe.
Any number of things. Any number of things because of how bad this movie was. Which is very bad. So. No spoilers yet, though. Not trying to spoil how I feel. It's just a bad movie.
Yeah.
So, anyway. I never even finished the intro. As always, I'm joined by Heather, no Jason. And we are going to talk about what we liked, didn't like, and everything in between with the newest movie in the Scream franchise, Scream 6. We will go recommendations, or we will go spoiler-free recommendations and scores, and then into a more spoiler-centric section with time codes in the description to allow you to jump around in the video or in the audio, in the podcast, if you so require. With all that, Heather, what are your spoiler-free thoughts about Shitfest? I mean, Scream 6.
I mean, I wouldn't say that I'm completely as down on it as you appear to be, or that I'm going to assume you are. But I do have to say I was a little disappointed in this movie because I don't know. I guess that before I saw it, the few people online or the few things I'd read about online was like, this is so good. It's better than the last one. Kept hearing that this was like such a great installment in the Scream franchise. So I was like, oh, okay, and, maybe that's why it's good to not listen to those things till after you've seen it. But it was just kind of a letdown because I don't think that there was anything about this particular movie that made it stand out really in any sort of way as like a more memorable of the movies. I guess like storyline wise, there's things that would make it stick out. But as far as like, I guess you could say it's probably one of the more violent ones, or the ones that you see more of like crazy violence with. But I think that they had a big idea for how they wanted this to be executed, and it didn't reach the potential that it thought it was going to. So I don't know. I also think that for whatever reason, the acting of most of the people in this one just wasn't like, not to say that, the Scream movies have the best acting in the world, but just people in this movie that I expected to have better performances that just didn't. It's almost like some people phoned it in a little bit or something. I don't know. Or maybe it was on purpose. I don't know. but I don't know. I was let down by this one. There were some elements that were okay. There's some people in it, some characters in it that I was okay with in this movie. In concept, you know, but I don't know. Anything about it just really was like, okay, I guess, you know, like there was nothing, there just wasn't anything that made me like, oh my goodness, this movie is like, makes me believe in the Scream franchise again or anything like that. It's just not that movie. And as we all know and have always been complaining about since we heard about this, there's no Sydney. And that just kind of sucks all around because it's Sydney. So, you know, and I guess I will say for the fact that Sydney is missing, you know, you do get a Sydney hole in your life without her in this movie. But I do think that in a sense, they probably did about the best they could with a Scream movie without having her in it. It falls flat for me in what they were trying to execute with it, as far as I could tell. So it's not really up there for me, but at the same time, is it the absolute worst in the franchise? No, it's not that either. So it's it's really a mixed bag, but I lean more towards disappointment from this particular film.
Recommendations and score.
Cool.
What you got?
So this is just like a me podcast because, you know, you got nothing.
I'm biding my time.
You're biding your time. Okay. Got it. You really want me to go now with mine?
Yeah. What's your recommendation and score?
I mean, I guess I'll have to say, I do think if you've seen the other ones, I do recommend seeing this one because it's part of the franchise. And there are some characters and there's some things that happen that, you know, I think are worth seeing, I suppose. Don't expect it to be the best one, but I recommend it if you saw the other ones and you enjoyed the other ones, I do recommend it. If you're just looking for like a horror film that you think is like a good slasher or scary movie that you just want to watch, no, not necessarily. There are other ones out there. But again, not the worst one. And it's also not the worst time I've had at a movie. So I'll give it a 63, 63 ghost faces on a subway bus freaking everyone out of 100.
To be accurate, it's a subway train or car.
Sorry. Subway train is actually what I meant to say. My bad.
I just want to make sure your score is correct.
Thanks for looking out.
Movie sucks. It is the worst in the Scream franchise.
Okay.
Don't watch it. And let's hope that when they do Scream 7, it's a requel itself and it negates the existence of this movie. Yeah, 5-2. Why not? And 4. Let's get rid of 5, 4, 5, and 6. All of them.
Just all the new ones.
I'll give it a 4. Yeah, 4.
It's just a 4. Okay.
I'm trying as much as this movie did.
Got it. Understood.
So the official Cinescore for this movie is a 33.
Okay.
Spoilers?
Sure, let's go.
Spoilers.
Heather.
Mm-hmm.
I sent an email to you and Justin on Saturday afternoon.
Mm-hmm. You did. Yes, you did.
Saying don't read this until the podcast.
Right.
Do you have that email?
Yeah, let me get it. Okay, yes. I do have it.
What time?
Shall I open it?
Yes.
Okay.
What time did I send that email?
You sent this email at 1:24 p.m. on Saturday.
1:24 p.m.
Yeah.
And what was the date of Saturday? Just so we have.
March 11th.
March 11th at 1:26 p.m.
Yeah.
Okay, now, if you could, read the contents of that email.
Okay. Yep. All right. This is what it says. After watching all the other 5 movies, I have a prediction. At least one of the killers in 6 will be related to Richie from 5. I also feel like this movie will either follow 3 and have 1 killer or be the first to do more than 2. Really spot on there.
And what time did I say I sent that at?
1:24.
1:24
p.m.
I also just sent you a picture of my movie ticket.
Okay.
Can you just read the date and time in which I watched Scream 6?
Saturday, March 11th at 1:30 p.m.
So 6 minutes before the movie, I sent this email.
Mm-hmm.
I'm tired of being
you
right.
didn't miss a beat. You didn't miss a beat at all. This is definitely a real thing, everybody.
Now, with this also, Justin was included in this email.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, we did not know if he was going to be on this episode. There was a chance, but it was looking more like he wasn't going to be on this episode.
Yeah.
So you and me had decided to go see the movie together.
Mm-hmm.
Now, during the movie, I mean, this is going to be your word.
Yeah.
During the movie, at a scene that I think that was about 15 to 20 minutes into the film.
I remember well.
Did I not correctly identify all 3 killers?
You did, yes. It was the scene where Mindy is in the whatever common park area or wherever they were at.
Samantha, not Cindy, or not Sydney.
Mindy.
Oh, Mindy. I thought you said Mindy. In my head, you said
You thought Sydney?
Sydney.
Yeah, Mindy.
Yes,
when
correct,
Mindy's
Mindy.
doing her monologue thing in the grassy area with the park benches or wherever they were at.
If this was a
it was that
90s
scene.
or 90s or 2000s TV show, it would have been called The Quad.
Yes, basically, yeah. It was Mindy on the quad doing her monologue about all of the whole, this is who you should look out for, and this is who it is, and these are the rules that you need to know, that whole thing. It was during that scene I specifically remember because there was one person that I was suspicious of when that was going down that I thought, okay, I got to keep an eye out for that person, who was Ethan, who is one of the guys, one of the killers. And like right after I thought that in my head, you were like, hey, I know who all 3 of them are. I was like, okay, who are they?
Well,
and,
a hair before that scene, I had named the first killer.
Yes.
Because there's a scene in the movie where they're questioning Sam and they're like, what's your alibi? Because we found your driver's license at the crime scene. Don't worry. I will be addressing that scene in a little bit too. But, and she's like, I was at my psychiatrist's office or my psychologist's office or therapist, whatever the fuck she called him. And she was like, and they were like, well, she was like, I can give you your information if you want to verify it. And then the cop guy goes, yeah, we're going to need that. The next scene is that man being murdered.
Yeah. That was a little too.
So I'm like, oh, so it's the
obvious kind of.
It's the guy from The Wedding Date, whatever his name is.
Dermot Mulroney.
See, there's Dermot Mulroney. Then there's the guy that played Papa in Stranger Things, Matthew Modine.
Mm-hmm.
Matthew Modine, Dermot Mulroney, and then who's the guy that was McDreamy in Grey's Anatomy?
What is his name?
Dylan
Patrick
McDermott?
Dempsey.
Or is that Patrick Dempsey? Patrick Dempsey and I guess it's
Dylan McDermott, though.
Dylan McDermott.
The other one.
Those four guys, I get their names fucked up all the time. I know they don't look alike. It's just for whatever reason, their basic white people names get very confusing to me.
Well, yeah, I used to actually do that all the time with Dylan McDermott and Dermot Mulroney. I always mixed the two of them up when I was younger. So it's not just you.
Yeah, and then Patrick Dempsey. I don't know why that's thrown in there. And then Matthew Modine. Like, it's just...
It's the D's.
I don't know.
The D's and the M's and the...
Maybe it's the D's in the last name specifically. Because even in Modine... Yeah, but then
you've got like the... Yeah.
The emphasis is on the D.
Yeah. And then there's lots of M's. Dylan McDermott, Dermot Mulroney, Matthew Modine. Patrick Dempsey is just the D, though.
I was saying Patrick Dempsey. Well, it's got the M in it, too.
Yeah.
Dim.
True. So I think it's the M's and the D's that kind of make it that way.
Maybe. But, yeah, I nailed him. And then, of course, the character playing his daughter would then also have to be a killer because it's the Scream franchise. God forbid they have somebody be a killer that's not related most of the time biologically to somebody else.
Right. Yeah,
most of the time it's biologically. So then, of course, and then because of how lazy they were in 5 with it, where the very first person that is openly accused of being the killer was the killer, that means Ethan in this movie.
Yeah. And
I didn't know
that one.
I was just going to say, I didn't know Ethan was a part of the family.
True.
But
yeah,
it's not like at that point when they're revealing all the killers and I nailed all 3. And then my other 2 predictions were correct also. To find out he was also a family member, I'm like, that's low on the list of bullshit I don't give a fuck about right now in this moment.
Right. No, that's fair. Like, definitely didn't know what the motive would have been. But I mean, when you mentioned those 3, I was like, okay, they're not bad guesses, and like, I was already kind of a little questionable about Ethan because I was like, okay, what's going to be his part here? And then I just remember as the movie was going on, like, it actually would have just made no sense for him to be in this movie if he wasn't involved in the killings, because he literally did nothing else. There was nothing else about his character that mattered.
And that's one of the things too with this movie or with the Scream franchise. There's always the character. You're never going to have a killer that's not a part of the movie.
Right.
They're always going to be a part of the movie. And it's got to be somebody that just randomly comes and goes for no fucking reason. And that's why it was Amber in 5. Amber's character would just randomly come and go.
Yeah. That's true. And
so in this one, it was him. He's randomly there and randomly not, and randomly there and randomly not. And then what was the girl's name?
Quinn.
Yeah. I didn't buy it for a second when she fucking got killed. I mean,
yeah. And at that point, it was in my head, though, too, because you had already called it. And I was like, interesting choice. And then when she died, I know it's not necessarily specifically the case in all the movies, but the fact that we didn't actually see her getting stabbed and like actually murdered made me think you were right, because she just comes out and she's all bloody, but we didn't get to see all of the stabs and the killings and all of that when it happened.
The Scream franchise rarely has killings that don't happen. They do. They have. Every once in a while, you'll get some murders that happen off camera. One of them's the boyfriend in the first Scream, the Drew Barrymore's boyfriend.
Oh, yeah.
He gets killed off screen. I mean, you see him for a second, but his actual murder happens off screen. Yeah. And then Randy in the second movie is killed off camera. It happens every once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so even if that was the case where they were trying to be like, oh no, she died off screen, I still never once felt like I was wrong. Even though they were trying, they tried to sell that she was dead and all this other stuff. But then, like I said, once I'd already figured out that the dad was the killer too, when the dad comes out and he's all, I'm gonna get my daughter's killer. I'm like, I already know you're
not
one.
Passable.
Like, I already know you're the killer, so I know she's not dead.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the whole, like, me thinking of why was the acting so off in this? And, like, I know he was an actor acting in this film, too. Like, he was supposed to be acting like he was not the bad guy and acting like he was upset at his daughter being dead. But it just was so, like, off-putting. Because he's a good actor in general. He's pretty decent, that Dermot Mulroney.
That's still one of those things where it's hard for an actor to act like somebody that's acting poorly.
Yeah.
It's kind of like how sometimes like a singer has to pretend like they can't sing. Mm-hmm. But there's still things they do that they just can't help because they're a singer. Like they can hit the wrong note, sure. But then, like, they still have all the right breathing techniques. You know, so it's like...
Yeah.
Those types of scenarios. And then you just get into some insane overacting at the end of the movie. But yeah, like, it was just one of those things. Like, I knew who it was the whole time. And at no point did this movie ever make me second guess myself. Even with the fake killing of one of the killers... Because the other killer is the one that said she was dead. And I already knew that. I'm like, she's not dead.
Yeah.
Like, it makes no sense.
I mean, even when they were... Go ahead.
And I mean, the movie just devolves from there because it's one of those things that's like, you know, the cop is at the scenes and Ethan's there. So it's like, oh, see, the killer's here. And then I'm like, the whole time I'm going, yeah, because that's the girl. You know, like in my head, like, I'm just like, I was just that sure the whole time. I'm just like, no, like, that's just the girl murdering people. But then somehow this movie has some of the weirdest, like, strength balances of a fucking Scream movie ever. Because she's killing people that have like 8 inches on her, solid muscle, all this shit, and she can overpower them. She can take a beating from other people. Like, this is also one of the worst ones when it comes to like people getting shot with a bulletproof vest. And then they just lie there for a while and then get up like nothing. Bulletproof vests while stopping the bullet from like penetrating your flesh. It's like getting kicked by a fucking horse. Like, you're not just getting up.
Right. Well, I mean, and that's kind of what I was about to say, too, is like the whole thing of them doing the fake out and trying to make you think that it is Kirby who comes back in this movie. It was like, that is the smallest, tiniest little person ever. There's no way that was her. There's no way that you should believe that was her.
Part of the problem with the Scream franchise is one of the things they've done for so long is rarely ever is the person that's supposed to be the killer the one in the costume. They typically have this one actor who did like the voice
Yeah.
of the Ghostface has actually been the same guy for all the movies.
Which is cool.
But they typically have like one guy for the movie that'll be in the Ghostface costume. With the exception of sometimes when they have multiple Ghostface on screen at one time. You know, they obviously can't have one guy doing that then. But yeah, that's typically whenever they will put it, the actual people in the costume at that point. But for the most part, it's one guy. And it's like, yeah, this guy who's obviously like 6 foot tall. And they're like, it's Kirby.
Yeah, who's like maybe 5 feet. She's so small.
Hayden Panettiere is like what, 3'2"?
Yeah, exactly. Like,
I mean, it's just
so
insanely
small.
obvious the entire time it's not her. You know,
which I'm glad because I think I would have actually been mad if they had made her. Because here's my thing about it. I was not a fan of the fourth movie, Scream 4. I will say, though, that aside from Sydney, I think Kirby was the only decent thing about that movie, in my opinion. I did not mind her character at all compared to any of the others. So I was okay with her being back. I kind of liked it because I did like her character. How she didn't die, that's beyond me.
That
like
was one
most
of the
people in this
weakest
movie.
fucking things in this movie.
Yeah.
They were like, oh, I had died for 4 minutes, but they revived me.
Right.
I'm like, so you would have been at the hospital with Sydney and her cousin and Gail.
Right.
And Dewey alive. She would have been alive at that point. Dewey wouldn't have thought she was dead.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's one of the weakest retcons that they kind of did.
I agree.
To it.
Yeah. That's true. Like bringing her back was fine, but like the reasoning for how they did that was a little bit off. But I mean, I do think that other than that, what they did with her character kind of did make sense as far as she was working for it was the FBI, right? That she was working for. I mean, working for.
Yes, it was the FBI. And she was an FBI agent. But to me, that was one of the weakest things about it. Because do you know what the FBI doesn't do? Have people just stationed looking into ghost face crimes. There's not a ghost face division in the FBI.
This is true. And that part, yeah, I just mean in the sense of I could see her completely being that person that's like, I want to join the FBI and find people like the people that almost killed me.
Well, that's also one of the problems in TV shows and movies when it comes to the FBI. TV shows and movies make you think the FBI, 90% of the work they do is catching serial killers. And that's like one of the least things they ever do.
Yeah.
99% of the FBI's work is white collar crimes. You know?
Yeah.
Like, and also the FBI is a very slow moving organization. They don't sit there, you know, and go like, they might question you and then like 2 years may pass and you're like, oh, they never got me. They have no idea what's going on. And then all of a sudden they bust down your door. No, because they literally just spent 2 years going through paperwork to also catch your ass.
Mm-hmm.
The FBI rarely ever goes after anybody without it more or less being an almost guaranteed indictment.
Yeah.
They are one of the slowest and methodical organizations ever. They also allow a lot of criminals to not go to jail because they are like, they're like, man, we've got 80% of a good case here. That's not good enough for the FBI. Nothing. They're very slow moving. And, you know, like they're not devoting resources to checking ghost face crimes or potentially, you know, she's like, oh, that's what I do in the FBI is I scour message boards to find new ghost faces. And I'm just like, fuck off with this.
Yeah.
Fuck off with all of this.
That is true. The details of it, I agree, are very off. But
And then
just
also,
the concept of her joining the FBI made sense to me, I guess.
I mean, maybe, but then also, like, you know what the FBI is also not going to let you do? Be a ghost face villain that investigates ghost face crimes.
Yeah.
It's just so dumb to me. Like, I don't really appreciate the movie being that dumb to my face. And that's on top of all the other dumb shit this movie does.
Yeah.
You know? Like,
which I would like to say, I don't know how you felt about the opening of this one, but I actually really disliked it.
that was one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. The fake out killers to be like, to then introduce the real killers. I was like, fuck this movie.
Because it's genuinely pointless. Like it sets it up like it's going to be doing something different in this movie with them like supposedly revealing who Ghostface is like right off the bat, which obviously everybody knows isn't what actually how it was going to be. But like fake out Ghostface killers killed by the actual Ghostface, but it was so unimportant. Like it was so unnecessary. Like it just was dumb to me. I don't know.
Well, that was just so they could have a red herring.
Yeah.
Like, so were they just sitting there while the main characters are like going to college and they're just sitting there going, nope, we got to wait for somebody to fake be Ghostface so we can frame them.
Right.
So we got to keep holding off on our plan. So
yeah, I mean, and
dumb.
the fact that they didn't even really have, they claim that they had motive for the guys at the beginning, but they didn't really. Like it was basically the same of like, you know, wasn't it something about their movie?
They
again?
wanted to
like
finish Richie's movie.
Yeah, they wanted to finish the movie, and that was technically their like reasoning, but it just was so. I don't know. It was way left field. And also I understand that, you know, they always have like these pretty big, you know, stars at the beginning of a movie. So they had Samara Weaving in this one. And I'm actually just kind of bummed because I just think that she would have been a great asset in this movie in general, like to keep her in it longer because she's great. So that was a missed opportunity, but I get it because you got to have the big kill at the beginning and she happened to be it. So.
I mean, and it's right up there with Scream 4's opening scene where it's like a triple fake out. Because you have the opening to Stab 6 that leads into the opening to Stab 7. Or Stab 7's opening also has the opening to Stab 6. And then that goes into the actual killing in the movie. And you're like, this is just to have 97 cameos at the beginning of your movie. Fuck off. Yeah. It's boring. It's dumb.
Yeah, like, that probably was the worst opening.
And that's why, to me, this is like reminding me of that. Because it's a fake out killing to the fake out. Or, you know, to like, I'm just like, why? Like, and then on top of that, I'm kind of tired of in the Scream movies where Ghostface will be hiding in a closet and then on the phone with the person and they can't hear them talking in the closet.
That was especially in this one because there was so much of it.
You cannot whisper on the phone and then sound as clear as you do on the other end, even if you've got a voice changer, because then that's projecting your voice. Like, that's not how shit works. Yeah, I'm just so tired of that. And I know the argument could be that, well, you're on the phone with one of them and then they're the killer, like the other one's there. But then why? How does the conversation always time so perfectly with like the attempted killing? And so it has to be the person there. Yeah. It's dumb. And this movie does it a couple of times. And that was kind of annoying with me on that one because they did it with Gale also, where Ghostface was able to sneak up and stone cold silence and stealthily assassinate her like ripped athletic boyfriend.
Yeah, exactly.
And that was Quinn. Like, that was Quinn.
Yeah,
and Quinn's on the phone with her
of all of them,
and then talking. and has no problems talking whilst fighting a guy and then throwing them through a wall.
Right. Just that super strength.
And they're dead. Like, that's dead weight. So it's even heavier. You know?
Yeah.
So it's just, it's fucking tiresome with that. And as much as these movies are trying to be meta about like the tropes of Scream and then being meta about those, but then being meta about the rules of a requel and all this other shit, it's all a bunch of lazy shit that they don't even really fucking try.
Because also, how is it possible that there's so many times that Ghostface is just already in their house or closet when they've been in there the entire time? They just like waiting for hours and hours until like they do their
why
thing.
is every Ghostface like a master at walking around in new surroundings and
right.
technological geniuses every time?
Yeah, every time.
And like, it just feels even worse in this movie. And then on top of it, it's all because they're just mad at Sam because she killed their brother/son. And because he was a killer. He was like, he was just a fan of the movies.
Okay.
You're not going to win me over when your motivation to kill this character is the shitty motivations of the movie before.
Right.
And like, you know, I'm still trying to figure out like some of those things that like they did with this. Like, you mentioned Sydney's not in this movie. We've mentioned it several times. There's a massive Sydney problem in this movie. Because this movie keeps talking about how Sam is the legacy. And I know it's because she's Billy Loomis's kid.
Yeah.
But that she's not the legacy.
Yep. No way.
You know, like framing her isn't going to actually do anything at this point. You know, and also don't sit there and try to change it all where you've got this new character. And then just because you want the focus to be her, you have to also have them earn it in the movie. And that never really felt like the case because honestly, you're still hinging too much on the fact that she's Billy Loomis's kid.
Yeah.
Like you're never actually giving her her own thing because you're still just tying it to Billy Loomis the whole fucking time.
Yeah. And I didn't even like in Scream 5, I wasn't the biggest fan of her character anyway. I liked her better in this one, I guess. But like even in general, the whole thing where she still is, you know, seeing images of Billy, you know, talking to her, guiding her through whatever it is still just super weird and makes it actually super cheesy when they do those moments every time. There's not a moment that they do it that I'm like, that was cool. Like every time they do it, I'm like, this is making the whole scene worse to just have him being your conscience. And I don't know.
And they're not even doing a good enough job of selling that it's not actually him. It's her conscious manifesting itself as him. They're not even doing a good job of selling that like that. They want it to feel like it's him because they're wanting you to go, yep, the killer gene's in her. So it's just like him. And I mean, come on, it's 2023. Can we quit doing the whole, my father was a monster, I'm a monster? Even though I didn't know who my father was until like that. Like, if you really wanted to play that, then that would have been a part of you before knowing that. You know what I mean? You'd have to there would have, you know, that's when you have a psychologist when she's talking to him and being like, hey, when he's like, well, was that the only time you felt like that? When you were like having to kill somebody out of self-defense? And she could have been like, I felt like that as a kid. I just didn't know what I was feeling. Something that like actually hint that where there's a reason to earn that drama with those moments.
Yep. I agree. And that, the therapist that she was talking to was Yeah. I think movie therapists are also very much always like they make movie cops and movie therapists always just really bad in most movies I've seen.
Well, like, and with it too, because like that whole scene where she's like, I really loved killing Richie. And he's like, I'm going to have to report you. And she's like, why? And he's like, because you're a danger to yourself and others. No, you address that by asking her a follow-up question. Like, well, why did you feel good?
Yeah.
Like, you have to follow that up with something. You can't just go, danger.
Yeah. Basically. I mean, it also just his whole demeanor, it's almost like he acted like nobody had ever told him something like really serious and deep and dark about themselves before that moment. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just the way that he carried himself in that scene. But I don't know. I also just, and I know we're going to get to this because like there's so many people in this movie that there's no possible way that they should still be alive. But one thing that really bugs me about this movie and the last movie is, this is probably a hot take for a lot of people, Mindy. Mindy is absolutely annoying. I cannot stand Mindy's character. She is just the most irritating character in all of Scream, pretty much, for me. Or at least one of them.
It's the pretentiousness.
Yeah.
She's not a movie nerd. She's a movie know-it-all.
Yeah. Yep.
You know.
And she just makes that more important than the whole like dire situation that they're in. And she's just, she overdoes it every time.
Well, and it's because they do that weird shit of I love movies because I saw that one movie that only 4 other people in the world have ever seen.
Right.
It's that mentality.
Totally yeah.
You know, and all she's doing is spouting off shit from an IMDb trivia page. Like, Randy was saying shit that a lot of people knew or know, but that was back before the internet. So it's all shit that you had to like watch the movies to find out.
Yeah. And keep the knowledge.
Yeah. And then, whereas she's like I said, it reads like the writers just go to IMDb, they look up a movie, they copy some shit down from the trivia section, and they just give that for her lines.
Yeah. Yep. Because I mean, just her whole like, it's probably you. You're probably the killer. And even in Scream 5, when she's talking to Sam and she's like, yeah, you, Sam, because, you know, the rules of everything is what matters here because I'm right. That's just how she is with everything. And also, like, how is she alive? I just don't understand how she's still alive.
I don't know how her brother is still alive.
That was going to be our next point, probably.
They're trying to make Chad the new Dewey.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't work because, like, Dewey got stabbed in the first movie. And then he got stabbed in the second movie. But there's actually a throwaway line in the second movie that explains why Dewey still lives in the second movie. It's because he gets stabbed in the same spot as he did in the first movie. Mm-hmm. There's a line whenever they're loading him up into the fucking ambulance. They even say it's because of all the scar tissue from when he got stabbed before.
That's right. Yeah.
Where it wasn't as bad the second time, you know? And like, it's those types of things.
Yeah. And our friend Chad was stabbed at least 37 times.
Well, Chad got stabbed in the femoral artery in Scream 5. Like, it cut his femoral artery in his thigh. Yeah. Like, he's walking and losing his balance and getting dizzy from blood loss.
Yeah.
It's like 45 minutes until the cops come and the ambulance come. You're not bleeding out from your femoral artery for that long. But he also gets stabbed other places too. Like, that wasn't the only time he got stabbed then. And then this movie comes around and he gets stabbed like it's a fucking comedy movie.
Yeah,
like they're just like
so
stab,
many.
stab, 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 stab. It's just over and over and over again.
It's so many times.
And they're
There's
just
no
like,
way that he would be alive.
Yep, he's alive. It's all because he's Jenna Ortega's love interest now.
Yeah. I mean, and this is the thing with it too, is like, I like the character of Chad. Like if we're talking about newer characters in these movies, I'm fine with him. He's fine. I definitely like him more than his sister Mindy. I definitely like him more than her. I'm fine with him. And so it's not like I'm saying like, oh, like I wish he died, but there's just no way he'd be alive. And then like able to also just like, let's joke and like also let me kiss you while I'm, fighting for my life when they found me, and talk about how the reason he's still alive is the core four or whatever. His like he was saying like, I'm still alive because of the core four. And I get that was probably supposed to be like a, like, I don't want to leave you guys. And like, you guys are the ones that pulled me through. And that's probably what that was supposed to be. But just the way it was done was so cheesy and weird, because you're also just like coming off of still that thought of, wait a minute, how in the world are you alive? How is it possible that you're alive? It's just crazy. And like, I will say, I mean, not unsurprisingly for me, at least, Jenna Ortega was probably my favorite thing about this movie and the last one. I think that she has a presence. I think that she definitely did some of the best acting in this film. You know what I mean? But like also she got stabbed and just kind of walked around like nothing happened.
Well, these last two movies have been kind of bad about having characters getting shot or stabbed.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, when the ambulance is there, they're just bandaged up and walking around.
Right.
Because Sam gets
like
stabbed in the last movie and in this movie. Jenna Ortega gets stabbed in this movie. And it's always stomach stabs. They always get stabbed in the stomach and they just walk around.
And the worst offender of that is Mindy's girlfriend, who gets killed fairly early on. Like that girl was like gutted.
Yeah. And she's just running around bleeding everywhere.
Yeah. There's just no way, like, and then they're locked in that room. They're trying to get away from Ghostface and go across the ladder. And I'm like, she wouldn't have lived long enough for that. Like, she would have been dead before they got in that room. Like, she was gutted. It was insane. Like, just how it's almost like getting stabbed in this movie is like, it's just like, oh yeah, just, I fell down. I'm going to get back up,
Yeah, they're really bad about it. And I think the Chad problem is the fact that in this movie and then the last movie, you can't keep Chad around for the final battle because he is so much more physically capable than any of the killers in the last two movies that if he's still around for a battle scene or, he'd wreck everybody.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, Quinn took down Mr. Athletic boyfriend of Gail. That was absolute garbage. Like, that was totally like, how is that possible?
And then when you get to the end of the movie, one of the worst Scream tropes that I think has gotten worse and worse over the years is that everybody, when they reveal themselves to be a ghost face, turns into an overacting mess of a character.
Yeah.
And they're all trying to copy that shift in Billy Loomis and Stu Macher.
Yeah.
Who get away with that because they were fairly young actors at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like that was like a thing that they just did. And then they do it again in 2, and they do it again in 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. And every time it just gets a little bit worse.
Yeah.
Because the Richie character in fucking 5, whenever he's like, I'm Ghostface, went from being a semi-annoying boyfriend character to one of the most annoying characters in movie history.
Yeah.
And then in this
did you call him in that one being the killer? I can't remember if you did.
I don't even remember. I think that one didn't like that one is what I figured. It was the Amber one that I maybe didn't catch, but I also didn't care.
Yeah.
It's kind of like in 4, I knew it was Emma Roberts. I did not know it was the Culkin brother.
Yeah.
It's the secondary one that I have problems sometimes guessing. This one to me was just more obvious because I was like, well, it's the same writer and director of the first one, and they were insanely unoriginal in that one. So let's follow the rules that they've established they're going to follow because they're fairly basic with how they write shit out. And it was a little obvious in this one because they played their hand in the 5th one.
Yeah.
Their style, like if they do a Scream 7 and it's them again, it's going to be the same thing.
Yeah.
Because I don't feel like these people are competent enough to change it up.
Yeah, I mean, and if they follow suit, there's going to be like a random family member out of the woodworks that's the killer.
It's going to be like Amber's mom or something.
Yeah.
I mean,
or
they're going to end up doing something that won't make sense.
Yeah.
You know, unless they do it kind of like in Scream 2, where the character that's Billy's mom, the sister from Roseanne and the mom from Big Bang Theory, her character never interacts with Sydney until the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Because she knows who that is.
Yes.
You know. And
even though she looked different or whatever, she still would have like recognized her.
Well, she did. She did recognize her at the end.
Yeah.
When she sees her, she knows exactly who she is. Like when she walks in, she goes, Mrs. Loomis?
Yep.
And Gail goes, what? And she goes, yeah, she lost a lot of weight, but
yeah,
like that's her.
Because I think Gail is the one who didn't recognize her because I think she had said something like, oh, I've seen his mom and whatever. And she's like, oh, she lost a ton of weight, but she recognized her. Yeah.
Yeah. And you could do something like that, I guess, with one of Amber's family because Sam wasn't around. As long as you just have her maybe only interact with Gail or now I guess Kirby or Sam, you know, one or any of the new characters, you know, it'd be fine.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think, and also
it's either that or you have Richie's mom show up because she's not in this one.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, or it could be one of those like weird things that has to do with like Tara and Sam and their relationship of how they don't have the same dad. Like it's something maybe with that. I don't know, but
well, yeah, but they would know who the dad is though. I mean, it's not like, so that wouldn't really work too well, but I don't know. It's Scream. They'd figure out a way to do it. Like,
maybe
no, that is our
whoever.
They'd be like, oh no, that is our dad. He just got a lot of plastic surgery.
Right.
That's why we didn't recognize him.
Like, yeah. I mean, and like the thing with this too is I had to think about my thoughts with what they did with Gail's character in this movie, because at first I was like, I feel like it's just completely diminishing anything that they did in the last movie with her, you know, growth or whatever with her, you know, and her saying like, oh, I'm going to write a book about, you know, the hero of the town and it's going to be about Dewey and all this stuff. And then immediately right away, she's gone back to like, no, I'm going to write about this whole thing again and get another book out of it. And at first I was like, oh, they just completely changed everything. But thinking about it, it's like, okay, I guess like, what does she have to lose? And maybe that's why she did it. And it was an act of revenge or an act of like, I'm angry about this. And so I have nothing else. It could have been something like that, you know, but I feel like also at the end here when she's, I guess it's kind of at the end or whatever, where she, you know, basically is attacked by Ghostface and you're thinking that she's going to die. I almost feel like she should have, just based off of what she said, as far as like, you know, tell Sydney that he didn't win or whatever. He didn't get me.
I think the reason is because you don't want to kill off a legacy character every movie. you know?
Yeah.
Because legacy characters, the way the studio is going to look at it is a legacy character is going to bring the older fans. The newer characters are going to bring the younger fans. That's why you kind of got to split it. And that's why I think they didn't do that in this movie. So just expect Gail to die in the next one.
I mean, and it's fine that she didn't, but it's just that line made it seem like it was so final and like so like it was about to happen. And so I just don't see the point in her saying that line unless it was just basically because we wanted to nod to Sydney. It's
that, and they wanted to make you think she was dying.
Right. When literally hardly anybody died apparently in this last movie.
Yeah, but at the same time,
didn't die.
She got
whoever.
She got like stabbed and shot in the same place she's been stabbed and shot 97,000 times. I mean, Gail's stomach should just be nothing but scar tissue at this point. Because she's been stabbed and shot in the stomach 14.7 million times.
Which is another thing similar to what you said earlier with the bulletproof vest thing. Like in the last movie, when she gets shot out in the front yard by Amber, and you're just like, she just is like, ugh, I can't believe she did that. Like she was just kind of annoyed at it. And she's like, all right, let's get up and let's get her. Like, you just she's got been
stabbed and shot in the stomach 97 times. She's been stabbed and shot in the stomach so many fucking times.
But I was just like, it's just not even fazed by it. I don't know. But yeah, it's crazy how many, like, just Chad didn't die, Gail didn't die, Mindy didn't die, like just the killers, you know. Kirby didn't die.
I don't think anybody established died in this movie.
Just the therapist died, and those
it was all new
dudes
characters
at the beginning. Yeah, all new characters died. They didn't kill off their. So in a sense, I guess, like, what were the stakes of it then? Because nobody died.
It's also like, why is this movie set in New York?
Also,
it might as well just be a town with a college, because it's got a Subway and a bodega, and they're like, yeah, that's New York. Going to a bodega once and going on the Subway once. Can't get more New York than that. Yep. I mean, the only way that, like, I'm surprised with how lazy this movie is. I'm really surprised they didn't have a fight at the top of the Empire State Building at the end of the movie.
Yeah, like Ghostface just meets him up there.
And also, like, how do you track down all of the Ghostface memorabilia? Like, you really bought that much shit off of bad cops? Like, I understand, you know, 2 of the movies, or technically 3 of the movies, took place in Woodsboro at that time. But you're also doing it straight up in L.A., and then straight up in wherever the fuck she went to college, because I don't think they ever actually say where she goes to college. It's just meant to be a college town.
Yeah.
You know.
Right. That's true. Yeah, I know. It's so much just memorabilia and evidence and everything. Like, I don't know. It was just, that was a little interesting. But I mean, I think that, I don't know. I just feel like there were just wasted opportunities, I think, in this movie left and right.
I mean, I don't know. Like, there needs to be an invigoration of the Scream franchise, because I'm tired of all these movies when they have survivors from the last one. It's always so much of the movie is spent going, well, they're obviously one of the killers. They're obviously one of the killers. They went through all the shit. Now they're one of the killers. They're one of the killers. They're one of the killers. We've had that for 5 movies now. We've had that for every single fucking one of these movies since the first Scream. It's a tiresome trope. Also, I don't know, use a different knife. How did they always, like, is there just like, in that universe, is there a place that's just Ghostface knives are us?
The one knife. Yeah.
And all they sell is that one knife for like $20. So they can get 97 of them.
Is Ghostface the only, like, famous killer that anybody wants to be for Halloween ever?
And that's the other thing, too, is they're like, oh, it's a generic Halloween costume. I'm like, but now it's synonymous with that. It's like a constant thing.
Yeah. And you're just like, I'd never seen that many ghost faces like for Halloween for
I don't
any
even
reason.
remember there being that many ghost faces after the first Scream movie.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, not at all.
And I noticed that this franchise really hinges on at this point is the Stab franchise, the internal Scream franchise inside the movies. And it's something I noticed when I rewatched the first 5 in order before this movie. Even though I do not like 4 and 5. I used to not like 3. Now it's a goddamn masterpiece.
See, I was always in that camp of I'd never really minded 3, honestly, but I get why people don't like it. It never really bothered me.
It doesn't anymore. I'll gladly watch 3 over 4 and 5 and now 6.
Right.
But when I was rewatching all these movies, I noticed something about 4 and then again in 5 and now in this one. It's the Stab franchise has gone up to Stab 8. And Stab 8 was the requel. It was directed by Rian Johnson. And they're like, he didn't get it. He gave Ghostface a new thing and this and that. They're trying to really like make digs at Rian Johnson. And they're like, yeah, the Knives Out guy. I'm like, oh, the guy that's an infinitely better writer and director than anybody fucking associated with this fucking movie?
Right.
Fuck off, people. And it's all because they're doing that fake, stupid fanboy bullshit of bitching about the Last Jedi from Star Wars that he directed. Hate to break it to you, Star Wars fans. It's a fantastic fucking movie. Just because it fucking destroyed Star Wars as we know it wasn't a bad thing. It's my favorite thing about that movie is it was the most un-Star Wars movie out there. They went, hey, all these things that you think are sacred and all this and that in Star Wars, fuck all of that. And I'm like, you know what, Rian Johnson? I 100% agree. It's not my fault that J.J. Abrams went into bitch mode and undid all of it for fucking episode 9. But I fucking I think Last Jedi is up there with Empire Strikes Back. And honestly, on some days, it's better. It's a fantastic fucking movie. But, you know, they're hitting on him about that shit. And I'm like, he's a fucking better writer than director than all of you. But anyway, that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
That's bitching about 5. So in this movie, like, it all hinges back on the Stab franchise and how it went off the rails and all this shit. And I'm like, wait, how did they get to Stab 7, 6 and 7 that they show in the beginning of in what's it called? Scream 4. Or to the point where they do Stab 8 and that's the reboot. I don't know how they did that because I want to say it's Stab 3 or 4 is what they were filming in Scream 3, where all of the main cast and director and main producer / studio head all die. Because the director is the fucking killer.
Mm-hmm.
How the fuck did that movie get finished?
Yeah.
I
mean, that's a good point.
They continue. That doesn't happen.
Unless really the only thing that would make sense is if they did all these movies, they just made the one that would have been 4 into the third one or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but still, that's even a hard stretch to go.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, we never finished Stab 3, so let's tell the story of the making of Stab 3 as Stab 4.
Right, yeah.
Like, that's the weird thing, because even with publicity, that's a tough thing to really go out and market. Like, hey, guys, man, we know, a lot of people died making this movie, but, yeah, you should go watch it. Like,
don't let their efforts be in vain or whatever.
You would still have to get other actors to come in and then finish the movie or remake the whole movie from beginning. It's just, that's not really one of those things that happens.
No.
I mean, sometimes they do it pretty much like when one person dies while making a movie, that they'll look and see how much of it's filmed and all this other stuff, and they might still release it. But I don't think they've ever done that when, like, I don't know, the whole cast dies.
Right.
And the studio head. And the director. You know what I mean? Because, hey, Directors Guild rules would dictate that he probably directed so much of that movie that he would have had to been listed as the active director of the movie. And that'd be very weird to go, hey, guys, this was directed by a serial killer.
Mm-hmm. That's true. One person that... Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's just weird to me that this franchise keeps going by ignoring that.
Yeah. That is definitely like a major flaw, because the stab movies are so, like, for whatever reason, important in these movies.
They have been the most integral thing of the plot since fucking Scream 3.
Yeah.
Every single movie is hinged on the fact that they're making stab movies. Tangentially in Scream 2. But that's just because the first stab movie had just come out when it came to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, ever since then, they hinge on the stab movies. I mean, fuck, like I said, the director kills the entire cast of Stab 3. Stab 4 hinges on them, you know, being obsessed with horror movies and doing the Stabathon and all those things. And then, you know, Scream 5 exists because Richie hates every Stab movie since 1, and 8 was really bad. And then this one's mad because Richie was mad at the other movies, so they're mad at him too.
Yeah.
Ugh.
And one person we haven't really talked about is the new love interest of Sam, Josh Segarra's character.
Oh, like, you mean guy from She-Hulk?
Yeah. And the thing with that is, like, yeah, he was fine. But the thing is, the reason that we probably haven't talked about him is because, like, he was almost a non-factor. Not really, because he did come in clutch in that one scene when they're trying to get out of the house. But I just feel like with the whole idea of him being a new love interest, I know that there were some moments when they were, like, accusing him or thought it might be him. They just could have done a lot more with his character, is what I think.
He's in the movie solely for you to go, oh, he's the new love interest. He's the killer.
Yeah.
He's there for the audience to think he's the killer.
Yes.
That's why he's got the depth of a puddle in the Sahara Desert, because they didn't actually write him for any other reason than to have that.
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
it.
and it does. I mean, it worked on some people. I was talking to a friend earlier today, and she was saying that she actually thought that the killers were going to be that guy and Kirby. So everything that they wanted you to do in that was, like, it happened. Like they took the bait of, oh, the two people they're trying to set it up to make it look like it is who they thought it would be. But
I feel like your friend is a big M. Night Shyamalan fan.
I don't know. I haven't asked, but I'm just saying, like, that was the thing. Like, it worked. Like, their ploy worked on some people, thinking that, because I've heard other people that thought, like, oh yeah, I was so sure it was Kirby. I was so sure it was Kirby. And I never thought it would
Kirby
be, but
doesn't pay attention to the fucking movies. I'm not even necessarily saying this movie. I'm saying the Scream franchise. Because at no point, and I mean, and it's not that they couldn't be. It's the fact that these movies have devolved so much that a legacy character won't be the killer.
Mm-hmm.
Because they spend so much time in the movie going, hey, what if it's a legacy character? They never actually pull that trigger.
Yeah.
And now at this point, if you want to catch me off guard, you'd have to make the legacy person a killer. That's the only way you're going to surprise me really at this point because of how lazy they are. But now that I've said that out loud right here on this podcast, it's no longer going to be a fucking thing that's going to be like a smart decision.
Yeah.
Now that I've said that that's the only smart decision you can do, it's now a lazy thing to do.
Is that your early prediction for the next movie?
I have to see who the cast is first. Honestly, with as shitty as this writer, like the writing, directing team and all this other stuff is, in my opinion, it wouldn't surprise me if they decide to pay, for Sydney to come back to make her the killer. That wouldn't surprise me at this point.
I would be so mad if they did that at any point. If they make her the killer or they kill her off, no, it's ruining everything.
And that's the thing is like, honestly, what they should have done is she just shouldn't have been in 5. If you wanted to write her out and you wanted to make this a new legacy thing, honestly, you should have had maybe Dewey and Gale only in 5.
Yeah, that's fair. Granted, I'm sure at the time, Sydney thought she'd be getting what she should be getting for this one. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
But I mean, that's how you do it. You have Gale and Dewey in. You have Dewey get killed. You can bring back Kirby in this one. You can have, I think then you kill Gale. And then you can have Kirby again in 7. You don't have to kill her. I don't know why I keep saying kill. I've watched a lot of TikToks of that blacksmithing contest they did on like Spike TV for a little bit. Where it's like a blacksmithing competition where they would have to like make famous types of swords from history. And one of the guys that tests the stuff, he goes, "Your blade would kill."
Nice.
And
maybe that's it.
He says it because he's got an accent. But it's kind of become an iconic thing.
Yeah.
Like within that realm, like fans of the show or whatever. I've just seen TikToks and it's mainly just him and it's like you do some stuff and he goes, "Your blade will kill."
I have not seen that, but I feel like I need to.
Anyway, I don't know. That's the only logical reason I know for why I've slipped into kill so much lately. And then you wouldn't have to kill Kirby off in 7, but they you use that as a soft reboot type of scenario. And that's what they should have done. You don't bring in one of the ultimate final girls.
Yep.
And then act like she don't damn well matter.
Yep.
Like, come on. This is Sydney fucking Prescott.
Mm-hmm.
She killed her own fucking cousin.
Yep. And her boyfriend, and she did it. And kind of like a little bit
to her
brother.
Now that I think about it,
yeah, that's true.
This bitch has killed her brother and her cousin, and you think because you kill some whiny ass bitch and then that whiny ass bitch's family, you can replace her?
Nope.
Get the fuck out of here. That's Sydney fucking Prescott. You put some damn respect on her name.
It's true. It's very true. I mean, and like kind of to the point we were making earlier about like all of them being such over actors once you find out like that they're the killer. I think the only reason it does actually work as well as it does with Billy and Stu is because, especially with Stu, he is absolutely like legitimately psychotic. Like his character is actually psychotic.
He is also wildly in love with Billy.
Right. Yes, that too. And
see,
so
maybe that's why I don't buy Sam being the illegitimate like daughter of Billy. Because if Billy was fucking anybody on the side, it was Stu.
I mean, but it's one of those where his character is such a wild card anyway, even throughout the movie. Like he's just kind of just this out there kind of guy that the overacting in the moments when he did it didn't bother me because it actually just furthered us realizing like that he is an actual psychopath. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think you're right. Like that's why it works better in the first one also because we haven't seen it a million times, but it works better because of the types of characters they are. Yes, they're younger actors and so they could get away with it, but also just the types of characters that they actually are. It makes sense. I think the closest one to that actually maybe, I don't know. Amber did a good job of being somebody that was pretty psychotic too, but everybody else is just, it felt like overacting.
My problem with Amber was though, is just, it was Richie because Richie was so annoying. And then they just started calling each other baby nonstop.
Yeah.
As soon as they were revealed that they were the killers, they're like, hey baby, can I stab her? Yeah, baby, you can stab her. I'm going to stab him. Yeah, baby. I'm just like, will you fucking shut up?
Yeah, that was really irritating.
All of you.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, I just, the more we were talking about like the legacy characters and stuff, like I was just thinking about it more. And their whole thing of there's still these theories out there that in this 7th movie coming out that Stu will return. Stu's coming back and that they've alluded to it with what they talked about in this and whatever.
That has been a rumor since Scream 3.
Mm-hmm.
The original script of Scream 3 is that it was going to be Stu. It fell through.
That would have been interesting.
The deal with Matthew Lillard fell through. That's why it became her brother. That's actually why it's a little bit dumb. Like the movie, because they had to change it. They had a script written where it was Stu. Mm-hmm. And then, it got flipped around. Yeah. It was even to the point, I want to say in Scream 4 or even Scream 5, the original idea was going to be that Stu was behind the scenes orchestrating it from like a mental ward.
Interesting.
Like that's how they knew so much is because of Stu. Because the theory is that he's not dead.
Right.
I mean, they're trying so desperate to bring back characters that like they've even come up with an idea of why Rose McGowan's character can come back. Because
there's no way.
In the first movie, she's got twin beds in her room. You got to think about the scenes where it's her and Sydney in the room. She's got 2 beds. So the fan theory is that she's got a twin that just wasn't there. And that now her twin can come back. Not the character, but Rose McGowan can come back as the twin.
Okay.
But that's also the dumbest thing in the world because I think people also forget that was Dewey's fucking sister.
Yep. People
you know what I mean?
Definitely forget that.
And that there's no mention of a fucking twin anywhere. Dewey never mentions once that his other sister is even alive. You know what I mean? Like, you can't retcon it that hard at that point.
Yeah, there would have been something mentioned before now.
Yeah.
If that was a thing. Yeah, I don't know. That's stretching it, but it would just be insane to try and bring her back.
But yeah, that's how hard people are trying to force this bullshit in. I'm like, see, and that's the thing is like there are articles written like same people that are like, oh, Scream 6 is the greatest are like also like making TikToks about how, oh, it'd be so fucking great if Rose McGowan came back to play the twin sister because this, I'm like, no wonder you like Scream 6. You like bad ideas. But as long as they just mention another Scream movie, you go, oh my God, it's the greatest idea in the history of cinema.
Yeah, no.
No, I'm fucking tired of talking about this fucking shitbag of a movie. I was so bored. They really did give it away too fucking early.
Well, yeah, I mean, you called it super early, so you're probably just waiting for like, okay, let's get to the end so you could prove I'm right.
At that point, yeah. I was like, just tell me I'm right.
Yeah.
And I went 5 for 5 with my fucking predictions for this fucking movie.
I mean, do you think any of the kills were cool?
No.
Okay.
I legitimately did not really enjoy a damn thing about this fucking movie.
Yeah.
I mean, I say that. The one positive thing I'll say about this movie, I guess, is that the producers were such cheap asshole bastards that you didn't have to tarnish Sydney by putting her in this fucking terrible movie. As much as I think there's a problem with her not being in it, I'm kind of glad she's not. This movie's not fucking good enough.
Yeah.
For Sydney.
It's like a weird full circle thing though, because it would have been better with her, but at the same time, don't do that to her.
It doesn't deserve her.
Right.
And this is the movie we get. This is the movie that we deserved as a movie-going fan base because people, I don't know, don't like the Scream franchise, so they like Scream 5.
Yeah. I don't know. And again, I mentioned at the beginning that I think considering that Sydney wasn't in this, I do feel like they did the best they could, but I think that also speaks to the fact that that's how much they need Sydney, if that makes sense.
And I agree. They did the best they could. These people aren't that good.
Right.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
After watching Scream 4 and Scream 5, I did not think that this franchise could get any fucking lower.
Mm-hmm.
Than it did.
So you liked Scream 4 more than this one?
Yeah, in the end I did.
Okay. More so because Sydney was actually in it, or?
Yeah.
Okay. And that's fair. That is a valid reason. I get it. Because otherwise, I did not like anything else about Scream 4. Like I said, I think it's just Sydney and Kirby were the only things about it that I liked.
That's fair. Anyway, I'm done. You got anything else you want to talk about?
No, I think we covered it.
On that note, thank you guys for listening to this episode of the Cinema Slayers podcast. Check us out on the internet at www.cinemaslayers.com. We are on Facebook at Cinema Slayers Podcast. We're Twitter and Instagram at Cinema_Slayers. We're Cinema Slayers Pod on TikTok. We're at Cinema Slayers Pod on YouTube. We're at Cinema Slayers Podcast at gmail.com. If you want to email us, I don't know, email us if you want. Shout out to Plug Migo and Mundo Cho for our theme song and logos respectively. Give us a 5-star rating and review. We'd really appreciate it. Tell your family, tell your friends, tell your friends' family, tell your family's friends. And most of all, tell those dear sweet mothers, because dear sweet mothers love
Sydney Prescott.
Yeah, but she's not in the movie.
Yeah, but they still love her.
That's fair. Which means they would not like this movie.
Yes.
For a multitude
But they would like
of reasons.
our podcast because we are
pro Sydney and pro slut.
Exactly.
Which also not enough slutting in this movie. See, maybe that's also my problem with it. No Sydney, no slutting. I'm like, not the things I am pro.
So why would you be for this movie? I get
exactly. And as I always end the podcast, the YouTube videos, the TikToks, or pretty much anything related to Cinema Slayers, according to Justin, Moon Knight is the Best Picture winner. Remember, Cinefans, if Justin is not on the next episode, if you contact him, he will pay you $5. And this is 100% legally binding because he said it. But he was also so ashamed of himself that he couldn't bring himself to say it on the actual podcast and requested me, Sterling, to act on his behalf, be his legal proxy, if you will.
That's right.
And it's every time you listen to it. So if you just ever need $5, just throw the podcast on
Play
in the
that.
background. Be like, I listened to it, and Justin, you weren't on, and he'd be like, you're right. $5.
Here's some money.
It's just like that old rumor that George Clooney used to walk around with cash, and if you ever walked up to him and said anything bad about Batman and Robin, he would give you like $10 or whatever to like cover your cost of going to the movies and seeing it.
That's pretty funny, though.
It's just like that.
Same thing.
I can't even imagine that they will do a Scream 7. Because I just, like, I don't know what ideas these people could even think they have. Like, they scraped the bottom of the barrel so hard in this movie that it's nothing but wood chunks from them literally scraping the barrel.
The thing is, though, they're going to have 3 in the new. Well, I guess technically that they've already done 3 in new, but
4, 5, and 6.
But also, like, the reception of this movie, like, I wouldn't be surprised if they do another one.
The next time somebody asks me why I don't believe in God, I'll say it's because there is popularity and success with Scream 6.
And that's been your reason your entire life, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
I was prophetic in that way.
Mm-hmm.
My cats are even fighting about it now. My youngest cat, who is a conspiracy believing right winger, I think he's pro Scream 6. And my oldest cat, who is wise, she doesn't appreciate it, and so she goes and beats him up for it. I'm there for it.
I gotcha. It's the only right way.
It's the only reason why they'd be fighting literally at my feet right now.
Makes sense.
All right, I'm out of here.